Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We have a quorum, and I will call this meeting to order. The meeting for April 16th, 2025, the Commission on Aging. And we will start with introductions. We'll start online with introductions, if that's okay. Carolyn, if you could lead us off.
Sure. Good afternoon. Carolyn Caston, Commissioner here. And I apologize in advance. I have to hop off after about a half an hour today, but happy to be with you for the first part of the meeting.
Great. Kathy?
Hi, I'm Kathy Cirillo Smith, and I'm a former commissioner on the state Colorado Commission. That's pretty much it. Thanks.
Erin?
Hi, I'm Erin Marizella. I live in Colorado Springs, and I'm the membership chair here on the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging.
Thank you. Penny in Park County.
Yes, hi. Penny Everest, Executive Director, Park County Senior Coalition, and Commissioner on Aging for Park County.
Great. And Dayton.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Dayton Romero, also here in Colorado Springs, been on the commission for a couple of years. I was past chair, and I think that about sums it up. Thanks.
Thanks. Forgot Jared, who's our fearless organizer and Zoom aficionado. Thank you for being here. And now we'll go to the room. Melissa.
So Melissa Martz with the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging.
Hi, Phil Stafford, also from Colorado Springs, somewhat new to this commission, representing my company, Independent Home Living, Next Day Access, and Paula's A Place Like Home.
This is Connie Ryan. I also live here in Colorado Springs, and I will be relaunching Journey Care Coordinating after maternity leave this summer.
Penny Whitney's on her way. We'll have her introduce herself when she gets here. I'm Paula Levy, Chair of the Commission, representing Colorado Springs also, and a former Teller County representative living there for 23 years. I am representing my Never Alone Consulting business and a Place Like Home adult day program, nonprofit. Next, we need a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
This is Connie.
This is Kathy.
Go ahead.
I think we've got a motion with Kathy. We need a second.
I'll second it.
Penny?
Yes,
Was
I'll
that
second
you?
it.
All right.
Yes.
Introduce yourself if you're talking online so we know whose voice that is. I appreciate it. Thank you. So we have a motion by Kathy and a second by Penny from Park County. Any opposed to the agenda approval? Hearing none, the agenda approval is passed unanimously. And Wanda joined us, so I'm going to have her introduce herself to the group.
Wanda Wood, appointee with the Board of Commissioners from El Paso County.
Glad you're with us, Wanda. Next, we'll move on to consent items. I don't know that we have any consent items. Oh, the minutes. Yes, we do. Next, we are moving to the approval of the minutes from our last month's meeting, March 19th, and we need a motion for approval of the minutes as written. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
That's a motion from Penny from Park County.
Phil Stafford,
No.
I'll second that.
That second by Phil Stafford. And is there anyone opposed to approving the minutes from our meeting last month? Please say nay. Hearing none, the minutes have been approved as written for March 19th, 2025. Penny Whitney has joined us. I'm going to have her introduce herself to the group.
Hi, Penny Whitney. I am representing the communication conduit with the Colorado Commission on Aging, and I'm involved locally with a program called JAWS, and also Age Friendly Colorado Springs. Thanks, Paula.
Great. All right, moving on. We don't have any citizen wishing to address the committee, so I'll move on to number 4, public presentations. I'm not sure if Erin would want to present her. No. Okay, we're going to wait on that. All right. So having no public comment or presentations, we'll move on to action items. We're good on action items. Well, we're going to fly through this meeting possibly. Next is number 6, information items. And Erin, do you have an update for membership committee?
Yes, I wanted to talk about outreach events that have been going on in the community, and I want to invite people to talk about their outreach that they've been doing since we met in March. So, did anyone attend El Pomar Get on Board on April 1st?
So I did,
Mm-hmm.
but we didn't have any commissioners or RAC members there. So it was just myself and 2 other staff members from PPACG. And it was good. It was busy. Were you there, Erin?
No, I wasn't there.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's a great event, and I'm glad they're doing it, and hopefully we'll continue to do it in upcoming years. Again, what happens there is El Pomar brings together, I think there were 81 nonprofits in the room. And they had about 130 people signed up to kind of walk through and learn more about the organizations that were there and what their boards were looking for. And it was also just a great opportunity to, of course, network with all those other organizations because, of course, they weren't all senior based at all. I think Silver Key and Project Angel Heart were probably the only, senior. I think Safe Place for Pets was there. But anyway, it was good. It was a good event. I don't know that we have any official new members as a result of it yet, but it was good to get the information out. Thanks, Erin.
Good. And I saw there's something, Melissa, from you about the PPACG proclamation for Older Americans Month in May on the 9th of April. Did that happen?
Yes, the board did approve the proclamation, and I have copies of it here in the room. And we'll kind of dig into that here in a little bit on the agenda. We have a spot to talk about Older Americans Month actions and engagement stuff. So we'll bring that one up again in a little bit.
And an outreach event that took place today up at Cripple Creek at the Aspen Mine Center. Steve and I were to go up and do a presentation on the commission and possibly recruit members to the commission from Teller County, which I got 2 names. So Steve had to pull out because of an emergency meeting. So it was me, myself, and I, and serving lunch. We provided lunch, compliments of the Pepper Tree. I drove lunch up, and they enjoyed lunch and helped serve. And then they have a very diverse group up at Aspen Mine. So it was babies to little kids, toddlers, young adults, middle-aged, and seniors. So when I left, they had served 108 people, and I spoke, and I actually read the proclamation to the group. There was questions about representation in Teller County, and I said we need representation. And there were, I have two names to give to you that are very interested in Teller County representing the commission in Teller County. So that happened today.
Wonderful. Okay. Are you, when you say to you, are you talking about getting those to me personally or to Melissa? Like, what are the next steps for moving forward with
I
those
can
names?
I can forward those names to both of you.
Okay.
And yep.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have the Pikes Peak Senior News Lifestyle Expo on, wait a minute, this says, oh, on the 10th of April. Did anybody attend that event?
Oh, yes. There were many of us there.
Nice.
Phil was there. I was there. Paula had a table there, but Paula had some other stuff going on. So then I think,
My brochures were there.
yeah, somebody filled in for Paula's table over there. So anyway, anybody want to speak up on that one?
And I did get a call today from someone who picked up my brochure. So I don't have to be there. They're still calling. Phil.
I just did a quick walkthrough to see who was there. Kent Matthews was actually at your table
Oh, good.
for a while there when I was there. So maybe give him credit for
I
giving
will.
out that
I sure
brochure.
will. He didn't tell me.
And Kathy was there, wandering through. So I don't know. Any other comments from folks?
Was there any engagement for participation in the commission?
I don't think so. Like for people that I was talking to, I didn't have anybody say that they wanted to join the Commission on Aging. So, but we handed out information.
Okay. And then I have 426 is coming up, April 26th, the Golden Bridge Network in Woodland Park, the Golden Bridge Network Expo. I don't know anything about the Golden Bridge Network.
Do you want to share about? I mean, I'm going to be there, but Paula's from there, so maybe Paula, do you want to share
Sure. The
about?
Golden Bridge Network is kind of a mini SRC Senior Resource Council in Teller County, and it is composed of agencies and businesses that serve the seniors in some capacity, and they meet monthly and they write an article in the Pikes Peak Courier, and they have been putting on this expo for probably 10 years maybe now. And that's what it is. It's just it's a mini version of what happened down here on the 10th. And are they doing it at the church, the Methodist church?
I don't know off the top of my
Okay.
head.
Yeah. So it's well attended. They have transportation bringing people up from the parking lot, and just good representation from all the agencies that serve the seniors throughout Teller County and Cripple Creek.
Okay. So that is on the 26th. On Friday this week, Wanda and Melissa are going to Fountain Valley Senior Center.
Correct, Aaron?
Mm-hmm. And what's the project there? What's the mission there?
So, Wanda's from that area down there and then on El Paso County. And the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging hosts a ice cream social once a month down there. We usually have our SHIP counselor present on site. And so this month we decided to just go ahead and have us come down and be there for the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging. Our SHIP counselor will still be there. So if people have questions about Medicaid or primarily Medicare, Medicaid, she will be there to answer those questions for folks. But then Wanda and I will be there during the ice cream social to just interact and mingle and hopefully make a couple of announcements if the group can be quiet enough. Otherwise, we'll just be kind of mingling with them. And I did put together quite a bit of materials to take to the outreach events, these particular ones, with Fountain Valley and Silver Key. So and then also for Paula, but we had some issues with staffing this morning. And so Paula luckily made it with the proclamation. So
They made some copies of what I had printed.
Good.
So
Yay.
they have copies up there.
We're glad for that.
Yep.
So I'll be sharing those things with Wanda. Part of it is, just talking about the Commission on Aging, but then also talking about the Older Americans Month and flipping the script. And so, yeah, we'll see how it goes
Good.
down there.
Do you have my flyer that I sent to you? The one pager for PPCOA?
I don't. Because you'll have to send me that again, Erin.
It was after our exec meeting. It's the draft charter and the one pager.
I have it.
Okay. Because if if you're putting together a collection of materials to take,
Yes.
I'd be curious if the flyer that I put together is inclusive or if it's missing something from that. I'll forward it on to you again, Melissa.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Because I do have the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging flyer that's been done. And I apologize. I don't know what happened to the one you sent me. So, but I'll take a look at that and either replace the one that we have with yours, or kind of make some new stuff. So definitely we'll take a look at that. Thanks.
Yeah, let me know how we can collaborate on making sure that those two are in alignment, and we certainly only need one.
Yep.
And then on the 30th, Wanda, Kathy, and Melissa are going to Silver Key.
That is correct. Yep.
So what's the Silver Key event?
So that one, Silver Key has their kind of senior activity center now over there at their location here in town. And they put together all kinds of different activities and workshops for older adults to attend. And so we are one of the scheduled activities for people to come and attend. So we'll see if we get a few people that come. It's at 10:30 in the morning, I think.
Cool. And is that still like recruitment or just education about the PPACG?
No, it's more recruitment about it is more recruitment about the Commission on Aging and the RAC. So it's talking and actually really, again, it's that piece of talking to the older adults and, having them kind of give that feedback of, what are they seeing? On one of the flyers that I have, on the back of it, it has a list of, it has the chart of what the needs were that were highlighted when the 4-year plan was done. So it's like we can hand that out to folks and, talk about, when the 4-year plan was done, 2 years ago, these were the things that were highlighted in this area. What are you guys still seeing today? What are some of the issues and concerns you have? And the other part is, would they want to come and talk to the Commission on Aging and share their story with the Commission on Aging? And then would they like to be a member? So just kind of going down, multiple little opportunities of conversation with folks and seeing where some synergy happens. So.
Okay. So that's kind of like engaging older adults with the work of the COA and the RAC.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. So do we have these dates posted online, these upcoming dates? Are these available on our website?
No, because I wouldn't put them on. I don't think we'd put them on the website that we're going there.
Okay. All right. So what would be the best way? Because I know we're going over all the dates and the engagement that's coming up right now. What would be the best way for us to let commissioners know so they can share out when appropriate, when things are happening?
So I handed out today, everybody that's in attendance, and I've handed this one out before, the outreach opportunity flyer that's been handed out before, I think at the last meeting probably.
Okay.
So I'll just continue to hand that out and, encourage people because people have signed up and said, we want to come to that and do this because we've been talking about it, but even for myself, it's hard to keep track of them all. And this is my job. So
Yes,
for
I
people who
know,
have
there's
other jobs to do,
so
this
much.
is definitely something to keep on the forefront of our, just kind of trying to keep it going. So
Yes.
unless
And
other people have other ideas, but I'm happy to keep emailing it out.
no, yeah, I think that that's good. And I can see how some of these events are like everybody come, and some of these events are, a few people will be there, and then we'll circle back around and share engagement and what we're hearing from the community and how we can support as commissioners.
Yeah.
So looking into May or even next week, is anybody else here going to the American Society on Aging conference next week in Florida?
No. Not that
Nobody,
everyone's shaking their heads
nobody
here,
on my
no.
note there. Okay. Is anybody from PPACG going, Melissa? Is Jody going?
No, we do have people who are going, but Jody's not going.
Okay.
We
And I
have,
think,
yeah.
oh, go ahead. Is it the two people who you emailed to me?
Yeah. And then it also turns out that our ombudsman team, I think our ombudsman team is going, the whole team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So I will be there, and I can report back in May about anything super relevant to this group. There's a lot of shifting in that conference. A lot of talks and panels have changed just in the current moment, and things that are happening with funding and operations and semantics about our work. So I'd be happy to share what I learn when I get back from there. Um, and then in May, something that is not on the version that you emailed to me, Melissa, is that I'm speaking to the city council on the 12th of May.
Great.
So I'm presenting that Monday, and they told me that they think that it'll be first thing, I think 9 a.m. to the city council, and just presenting in my capacity as the Colorado Springs appointee to this commission. So as it gets closer, it would be great to have as many people from this group there, as many people from Age Friendly Colorado Springs there. Penny, if you could help engage that group. I really want to show the city council through that presentation what their resources are for this community. I connected today with someone at the city in workforce who was at a meeting with the Colorado Commission on Aging. And May is Older Americans Month. And the Colorado Commission on Aging is doing a campaign for older workers. So I'll probably be bringing some of that conversation, some of that messaging to that meeting as well. And I'm helping the Colorado Commission on Aging engage a campaign in Southern Colorado for older workers and age-friendly businesses and age-friendly employers. So I'm working with the BBB and UCCS and Silver Key on a messaging campaign. There's a whole structured process that Janine Vanderberg has put together for people who want to engage. And I'm going to be writing some letters to editors, and anybody who would like to add their name and their business or a group that they're volunteering with, anyone who wants to bring their group forward in this campaign in Southern Colorado, please reach out to me, because I would like to have as many signatures on the op-eds that we're writing. I'd like to have as many voices on LinkedIn and Facebook and whatever people are using for their digital platform. Let's get as many people as engaged as possible. I think it's a really good opportunity to use the resources that are available to us from this subcommittee at the state. And it won't be a huge lift, and it'll be an even smaller lift if we all work together. I see Penny has her hand up. I'm not sure which Penny. There's a Penny with a hand raised.
Park County Senior Coalition.
Oh, hello,
Yes.
Penny.
Hi. I just wanted to back up a little bit and let you know, I have a unique opportunity up here in Bailey because I'm on the board of directors for the Senior Alliance of Platte Canyon. And we do a lot of outreach up in this area. And we have a tea social that's happening on May 4th at Glen Isle. We're going to have a ice cream social in June. And then we've got a Golden Nugget event that's going to be happening also. So I've also been doing, Melissa, you're like this, a lot of outreach about seeing to get people to volunteer, becoming another commissioner, so on and so forth. So I have a good opportunity here to be able to bring the coalition and the alliance to this and help both the organizations along with being a commissioner.
Okay, who else is going to drive up there on May 4th? I'm just kidding. Thank you, Penny. Go ahead.
Penny,
Oh.
where in Park County, this is Penny, where in Park County will you be meeting on the 4th?
On the 4th, we are meeting at Glen Isle Resort, which is just outside of Bailey.
Maybe, but not for sure.
Okay, I'll send you some information about it.
Okay, thanks.
Very good. Okay.
All right, I have a couple more things happening in May. The PPACG board on the 14th, that's when the proclamation will be happening because they approved the proclamation in April, correct? Is that how it works, Melissa? And then in May, they'll be making the proclamation?
No, they actually did the proclamation in April because they had time on the agenda to do it. And it's
Oh,
just
okay.
nice to get it done ahead of time. So then
Okay.
we will just go into May. I have the signed proclamation here with me. And so then we'll just be going into May thinking about, how to engage and do stuff around flip the script. And I did print out the Janine Vandenberg email here. I was going to share that with Paula, but talk more about that, I guess, when we talk about Older Americans Month stuff. So thanks for bringing that up, Erin, because that's some of the most, the best guidance we've got so far. So it's been great to see that come out from those ladies. So we do have that. And so really, again, I have to be following up with Paula, Kathy, and Dayton to make sure that we have a presentation for the board to do on May 14th. So that's why for those who are seeing the printed out piece, it's highlighted.
Okay.
And Erin, if since you're presenting to council, if you would want to present to the board, feel free to present to the PPACG board since you're going to be on a roll.
On the 14th?
Yeah. Or
Yeah. Let me make a little note about that. Let's see if that could happen.
I'll
because
still
that would be
show up,
awesome.
but you
Yeah, I
got
mean,
it
that would be
going on.
great. Yeah, it is very, I would like to share, after that first presentation, I think that it's something that could be reworked and taken to, the municipalities that other commissioners are appointed from. I think it's something that we could take around and share easily and sort of adapt to our communities. So I'd like for it to be something that is sort of a unified voice that we take around our Tri-County region and tell the story about the work that we do. So yeah, let's connect on that. I think that's a good
that would
idea.
be great.
Yeah. And then Silver Key has an expo on the 15th of May.
Correct.
Is this correct? Okay. And then I think that those are, does anybody else have any outreach that they're doing between now and our next meeting that they would like to add? Okay. I mean, we've talked about a lot of things, and I hate to choose a favorite child, but please join me on May 12th because the more people in the room, the more of us showing solidarity around aging in community and the importance of it, I think is very important right now. There's so much, there is so much to think about. It's crazy times, and a lot of people are scrambling for resources, and it feels like, there is a lot to be done on a lot of fronts. And one of the things that I like about working in aging and aging in community and being together with the people here on this commission is that we all work in different sectors, we all work in different industries, and I think that we can show municipalities the diversity of, individuals, ages, where we're coming from, the stories that we bring with us for the reason that we're doing this work. And it's important to show up and show how much we care about it. I think that it's a good time to just remind people about their age flag, is what I like to call it. Raise your age flag so that they can see that we do this also. So thank you guys.
We should make an age flag that people can
Yes.
fly. Let's create one. That could
Like
be a
when-
project from the commission. I'm on it.
When sports people put their sports flags on their cars and they drive
Right.
around with their sport flag. Yeah.
I'm gonna
I'll put
work
an
on
age
that.
flag.
I'm gonna work on that.
I love it.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you, guys.
you for
Yeah.
all of that, Erin.
Yeah, of course.
Next is our policy committee updates. And the first is this Colorado Center for Aging.
I don't know if anyone attended the latest meetings there with them, but again, they are, moving forward and, every day, looking at different pieces of legislation and having comments about it on their Monday morning meetings. So I did not attend the last one, so I don't have an update to share about that. But I know I'm amazed at the robustness of the things that they're looking at. They have it really well organized, whether they're looking at, housing issues, Medicaid issues. They just, they're tracking a lot of bills and they have them summarized quite nicely. And of course, we're coming up to a close and an end. And I'm thinking that Jared might have some comments to share, because there have been some actions and activities going on. So I'll turn it over to him for a legislative committee update from PPACG.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jared Werner, Public Policy and Communications Manager here at PPACG. We are down to the final 3 weeks of the session. The final budget orbital bills are making their way through conference committees right now. The long bill itself has gone through. And so we're going to start to see bills that were stuck at the Appropriations Committee level start to either move or be postponed indefinitely at this stage. In terms of bills that PPACG is tracking, it's been relatively quiet in the last month or so. A big part of that is just the fact that there's a massive budget deficit at the state level, and there's just not a lot of funds for anything new. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. I will say on the budget discussions, this is going to be a not just a 2025 General Assembly session, but and this is something the Joint Budget Committee has said several times. But there are some structural issues with the Colorado budget and how it's built. And unless those are addressed, I think this year's budget cuts will likely be just the opening bit. I think we can expect bigger ones next year without some bigger changes into that structure. From the federal side, there is, depending on how the federal budget shakes out, there are rumors that because of the funds that go through Colorado, through the state level, that if there's a massive change at the federal level, we could see a special session just to deal with the budget at the state level. So with that cheering news, I'm happy to answer any questions. I've included as an attachment just the PPACG bill tracking sheet and the bills that we're looking at on the PPACG side.
Any questions for Jared? And I see that Steve did join us online and we didn't have you introduce yourself, Steve.
Hi, Madam Chair, and I apologize for being late, and I owe you a huge thank you for covering for me today. So Paula, thank you very much, ma'am.
You're welcome. I'm glad you could jump on. Any questions for
you.
Jared?
Not at all. Jared, great job. I know it's been a challenging session this year.
It has, but quieter, if that makes any sense. So I just jinxed it with 3 weeks to go, I know. Um, but Penny,
Jared, what are the bills that PPACG are particularly focused on right now?
so the primary bills that we look at are the ones within our program areas. So for us, that's going to be transportation focused bills and specifically more kind of transportation funding issues, or transportation projects, I should say, or planning. Not so much the capital construction, and so while there's a lot of transportation related bills, a lot of them are CDOT specific, so to speak. So we're looking at planning ones. And then senior issues is going to be, so those are our top two categories. We also get a little bit into air quality, specifically ozone. While our region is currently in attainment for ozone, that may not, we've been flirting on the edge, and right now our 3-year average would just put us into non-attainment. And so we look at that specifically because the Denver area is not in attainment. And there's actually some news on that within this week about some changes with that. But mainly we look at that as like, if it's a air quality issue, is it focusing on attainment, the non-attainment area in the Denver area, or is it a statewide issue? So that's kind of what we look at on the air quality side. Water quality, and specifically the wastewater part of it, since we do serve as the Section 208 planning organization for wastewater permitting. Not a whole lot of action on that. There's a lot of rulemaking that happens primarily on that one. We also look at military and wildlife planning, and our wildlife activities primarily around the grants that we receive for military support. So while the military installations are focused on wildfire activity within their borders, for example, U.S. Air Force Academy, their western boundary is the Pikes Peak National Forest. And so looking at those kinds of things, similar with Cheyenne Mountain Space Force Station, similar with Fort Carson, not so much a concern with Peterson and Schriever.
And I will circle back just for a second. I did attend, so I was on vacation last week, but I did attend the Colorado Commission on Aging's, or the Colorado Center on Aging's senior caucus again, that they do in conjunction with the state AAAs. And unfortunately, I'm sorry, I don't remember all the real details, and I don't have them in front of me. But our lobbyists for PPACG are also the lobbyists for DRCOG. And they presented really good information about kind of where things were at with the state, kind of legislation and processes. And then they also had their director from, I think, CDPHE, not the, their policy analyst for CDPHE, who actually shared about federal issues. And it was interesting. And it was actually a little bit more hopeful than I was expecting. But again, I don't have the details in front of me. And if I have time, I might just type some of those up and forward them out to people. But it was really good. I want to reiterate again that last year we had one senior caucus that was put on. And this year, I think they've had one each month that they've done. And so next year, keep an eye out for those. The one that happened last Tuesday is the last one. They won't do another one. But, way to go to Colorado Center on Aging and then the state AAAs for kind of facilitating that and having really good information. So I did sit in on that on Tuesday last week. So
Great.
And I'm happy to, did we talk ACL that had that happened the last time? Do we remember?
go ahead and reiterate it. If
Okay.
I don't remember, I'm sure maybe other people don't either.
It's been a long
I shouldn't
year.
say that. You guys are
Um,
probably better than.
And so I apologize. And if we did talk about this last time, stop me because we don't need to, nothing's changed. But as part of the reorganization of the Health and Human Services Department at the federal level, the Administration for Community Living, which was the agency within HHS that had distributed and managed the Older Americans Act funding dollars, has been split up across 3 other not departments, but offices, agencies within HHS. As far as we know, the actual funding within OAA is still intact. But our understanding is that the totality of the ACL staff, the Administration for Community Living staff, is about half of what it was before that reorganization. My understanding is that all the regional staff were let go and everything's being handled out of DC. And so while the OAA funding itself might still be intact, again, as far as we know, how long it takes to process things might be slower. We're kind of still in the wait and see mode in terms of how that's going to play out. But that's the update at the federal side. I will say from the budget, we had the big news last week out of Washington was the budget resolution going through on the House side. Depending on who you ask, there's a couple different ways to look at it. I will say while OAA itself is still not reauthorized, I know there's some concern about that, but some other things to keep in mind, the Farm Bill had not been reauthorized in God knows how many years. And so while if it was authorized, it'd be a little more comfort. It's not that big a deal as far as I'm concerned that it's not authorized. The primary cuts, I know everyone's been hearing about the Medicaid and the committee that oversees Medicaid. That is not our committee. And so I just kind of want to help tamp down nerves that the big number that you're hearing on that side is a separate committee on the House side, especially that we work under. They still have a lot of work to do. The speaker has said he wants a budget done by Memorial Day. Everyone I've heard that's a great goal. I think the more realistic one is before this August recess. So
I just have one comment for the acronyms that are being used. We have newer people on the commission, and to talk those through instead of just throwing those out. And maybe we could even get a legend made for the acronyms so that people have a legend to refer to, because I know some of the newer people don't know what CDHPE stands, those type of things. I think it'd be helpful for that, and I can help with that legend if you'd like, but I just thought that might
and
be
we've got
helpful.
one we use on the PPACG side as well for board members. I'm smiling because for FEMA training, literally the book is about that thick and it's just acronyms. For that reason, and it's a flip book, but yeah, no, I think that's something we can definitely do because we're just talking about the aging side, much less DOD, USDA, Department of Defense, Department of Agriculture, Department of Transportation.
Great, thank you, Jared. Moving on. Jody is not here to help us with Colorado. Oh, yeah. So that's always the day after our meeting. But Penny, do you have a report from last month?
Erin, you probably could help me on CCOA in terms of the essential information that should be shared with this group since the commission meets tomorrow. What would be your top 3 outcomes from CCOA?
Happy to pop in. Number 1, please, everybody, help support the Flip the Script campaign in May and let's show the state that Southern Colorado is engaged, and we are, working hard and doing great work to help older adults in the work that we're doing here. So that's number 1, Flip the Script campaign. Have we shared out the link for signing up to follow along with that campaign? I know that we talked about it before.
I don't think so.
So
Okay.
I just got one on Friday, the 11th.
Okay.
So that was the first one that I got because ACL, Association or Administration for Community Living, as Jared mentioned, has been edited. And so there was no information on Flip the Script really, which is why I reached out to folks and basically we wrote our own proclamation. But then on April 11th, the folks with Janine Vandenberg and Karen Brown with Colorado Commission on Aging through Action Network sent out a lot of stuff. And so I just printed copies today, but I haven't forwarded that to anybody.
Okay. Yeah. So please join that campaign. And uh, it it's very well done. Janine makes it very easy to just copy paste, join the conversation, speak the same language, use the same hashtags, and show solidarity. Number two is that the multi-sector plan for aging has been released by Christine Burrows, the senior state specialist for aging, and she works for CDHS. And so she has released a primary draft version. It will be officially launched in July, on July 1st. And she's looking for community input into the multi-sector plan. So that is, I'm not sure, Penny, do you know the best way to access that?
The multi-sector plan draft.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's been sent to CCOA members to review, but I think the important thing for this particular group is that Aaron and I, in conversations with the CCOA policy group, indicated that maybe El Paso County could be a testing pilot for community feedback on the multi-sector plan using the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging as the conduit for convening a group of community people to first of all understand what the plan is, what's the purpose of the plan, and what is the importance of the feedback. Because the danger is, I think, like so many planning processes that take place outside of the constituents that are meant for part of the implementation, is the constituents are clueless. So I think if a point of discussion, and we can clarify, Aaron, I think the timetable for the community input. But what I would like to ask is if the Pikes Peak Commission would be willing to be a community input pilot site for the state multi-sector plan. And if so, I can carry that to the meeting tomorrow. So any thoughts on that? I don't know that it has to be a formal resolution, but I do think being knowledgeable about these large timeframe plans is really an important thing for those of us that are working in this sector. And the other thing probably, Aaron, that I would include too are the working committees. Aaron is the chair of the CCOA Policy Committee. Is there any communication from the Policy Committee that you would like to share with the Pikes Peak group?
We actually are in alignment with the multi-sector plan for aging. We're realigning our committees at the state level with the actionable items in that plan. And so our policy committee is going to be decentralized, and each committee at the Commission on Aging will have a policy wing. And so that's what we're doing right now at the policy committee, is we're moving our policy activities into all the other committees. I think that the most active committees right now at the Commission on Aging are the Age Friendly Communities Committee and the Workforce Committee.
Right. The other committee that's actually engaging in outreach across rural communities particularly is the Mental Health Committee, and Penny from Park County Penny, is willing to become a member on that group. when we start convening the sites for community input on rural mental health. So that's a positive. And then certainly the age-friendly activity that's going on in our community, directly linked with engagement of the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging. I sit on the age-friendly committee, and it's a good way to learn and also share ideas. And Erin is very well positioned on the workforce committee. So I think that gives a brief overview, but stay tuned for the multi-sector plan on aging.
Okay, great. Thanks, Penny. I think we're ready for the PPACG board report items. Is that you again, Jared? Sure, great, thanks.
Sorry, takes a while to walk up back there. I get my steps in, that's right. So the board met last Wednesday morning. The items specific to aging services was the adoption of the Older American Proclamation. That was Laura Cronick, who is a member of the Monument Town Council, read that into the record. She's also a member of the Regional Advisory Council. And then Jody Barker did provide an update on the AAA Area Agency on Aging carryover funding discussion. That made its way kind of through the Regional Advisory Council side, since that has to do with the funding and that kind of stuff. I won't get into details just because it's fairly technical, and Jody, I think, got that down to a brisk 5-minute spiel. If you're interested, I would refer you to the RAC meetings, the Regional Advisory Council meeting, and last week's board meeting, because both those do a much better job at that. Some other just bigger picture things with the city council elections. Last Wednesday's board meeting was the final board meetings for Yolanda Avila. She had been, I think, on the PPACG board for her entire 8 years on the city council. And then Michelle Tallarico, who opted not to run for re-election. We are expecting, so Lynette Kroll Iverson is still on the board. She's right now, I think, our second vice chair. She'll also be city council president for the upcoming session. So we'll see kind of where her responsibilities and that kind of thing, but we're expecting the city council to appoint at least 2 new members, and depending on Lynette's involvement, she's also, in addition to being our Michelle was our second vice chair, I apologize, but Councilmember Kroll Iverson is also our representative to the Front Range Passenger Rail District, of which she is the vice chair of that district. So some things to kind of keep in mind. The city has to make those decisions, but we are expecting 2 new city council members on our board in May. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Jared, for that. The next is the chair report. And I really don't have a report to speak of.
I think you sharing about going up today and
Okay,
making that
yeah.
happen was really good. So
That, and I hope to reach out to the Woodland Park Senior Center so that we can make something like that happen there, which is a little closer. And the food might be warm when I get there still, because it was not when I got to Cripple Creek. But yeah, I'd like to make that happen at other senior centers too, because I think it was well received, and it people that were not seniors were interested in learning about what we were doing. So that's my report. Next, we do not have any presentations. We'll move on to item 8, working sessions. And Melissa, do you want to talk about how we confirmed, we had confirmation of membership into the different work sessions and what we talked about at our executive meeting?
yeah, I think,
And Erin also contributed to that.
so maybe I'll let Erin, as a commissioner, maybe kick off. If, again, I do this for my job, so I tend to have a lot more information in my head. But But so if people feel like I'm putting them on the spot, please forgive me. I just want to make sure that I am giving commissioners opportunities to chime in before I do anything. So I will just say, Erin, if you have any recollections from our executive committee and want to share anything, otherwise I do have some notes here in front of me.
Do you mean just moving into the working session?
Well, what
Yeah.
we talked about as far as establishing the work groups, reestablishing work groups, because I think some people shifted, and how are they going to get work done as far as calling monthly meeting times and making those regular and
Yeah.
set, and then have you talked about charters for those committees, or the working groups, and then have note takers so that Melissa doesn't have to be at every working group session and be the note taker. So I think the working groups have been in place, but they've been floating out there kind of in space. And so just trying to get reins around them and get them more um more controlled.
Yeah, I would say I think that the first steps are to establish the working group leaders and everybody's membership on a working group. So do we have that information? I don't have that.
I think people were responding to Melissa as to what group they identified best with. I know some people were saying all of the above. Uh, that was not me, but I know some people did. So Melissa, I don't know if it was evenly spread out or if we've got groups that need people. Um, can you speak to that?
Yeah, so I think, so the people who've kind of stepped up as, kind of attending and then possibly even being kind of chairs, so Dayton and Aaron both have interest in the digital access piece, enhancing affordable and accessible healthcare, which that enhancing accessible and affordable healthcare might not still align with digital access. Digital access may end up looking like something very different. It just so happened that last year, our Park County members really jumped on that one and worked on making healthcare accessible. So we have, Dayton and Aaron, kind of falling in line there. We have, with the promoting social engagement and inclusion, we have Paula kind of aligned, there. We have Kathy aligned there. We had Penny Everest with promoting social engagement and inclusion. And I think Wanda had expressed interest with that. Then the strengthening caregiver supports, we had Connie as our person that was, kind of still working within that group. Kent had expressed interest there, but he also had expressed more interest in the social engagement and inclusion piece, but he also still aligns with the caregiver stuff. Phil had talked about housing, but I also think, Phil, you had spent a lot of time thinking about social engagement and inclusion as well. I don't recall with Penny Whitney for sure what you were aligning with. And yeah, so we got a lot of the folks kind of lining up with that social engagement and inclusion. And, what that looked like last year was we had pulled together about 18 folks from the community who hosted some type of senior activity across the 3 counties. And so we had, we had numerous people come to the room here, and then we had folks online, and they just really talked about what they were doing around social engagement and talked about some of the challenges that they were having in terms of, bringing people in. And so that is still out there. But I don't know, what this group with social engagement and inclusion would want to do. But I think that if it changes, you know, somebody should circle back to all those, 19 organizations and let them know that, this is kind of where things are headed. And hopefully they would still want to be involved because they're the ones who are doing social engagement. But anyway, let's see, am I missing anybody? I have Steve. So Steve and Carolyn. So Steve, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. And if you can remind us kind of where you were aligning or what area you were kind of interested in. Oh, Steve was all about housing.
Yeah.
Steve was all about housing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And then Carolyn, I do not recall. But I think that covers everybody. So we have, again, Dayton and Aaron with digital access, Steve and kind of lightly Phil on the housing side, Connie with caregiver, with Kent a little bit, and then pretty much everyone else is aligning with social engagement and inclusion. So I don't know what,
Well, I think
with that, I'm going to have everybody talk.
Yeah, I think the caregiver and social engagement could possibly be blended together because caregivers also need social engagement and inclusion. I don't know what your thoughts are, Connie, but I think those tie in together or could tie in together and still be separate.
I would vote no.
Okay.
I think caregivers, yes, they are interested in some of the social engagements, but they have specific needs and resources that need to be highlighted and promoted for and advocated for in the community. So I think there could be a benefit to having a caregiver
Okay.
section.
All right.
And Connie, will you just share a little bit about the calendar that's come out lately? Would you just
I
to
will talk
kind of
about
plant
that.
the seeds for folks?
So I've met with Lucy Crandall and Care Patrol into putting together a community caregiver resource calendar online. And Care Patrol has done an incredible job of creating a form that people have to fill out, and it goes on a digital calendar. So for any kind of event that we're finding in the community that supports or educates caregivers, specifically family caregivers, we have one community location to direct people to. So they have very strict guidelines onto what qualifies for this calendar. I was asked to join in on the meetings to see what, as the commission, we could do to help support this. So as you're out in the community, we would love to learn more about the events that are happening specific towards caregivers, support, education, resource, things of that nature. And then they can go online. I don't even remember the Care Patrol link here. I can send that out to everybody too. But that would be something easily that the commission could help support that is direct towards our caregivers in the community. I think with this work group, we also could do a lot more outreach with our caregivers in seeing what they're needing when it comes to support and resources here specific to the El Paso and other counties as well. So that's what I was going to bring forward for our work group session to see if that's something we would like to kind of help with, and then also to help spread the word about the Family Caregiver Support Pampering Day, and making sure caregivers in our community are aware of that day so they can be pampered and taken care of. So that's what I was kind of envisioning as that pivoting for the caregiver support and services. Any questions or comments on that? I can regroup with Kent Matthews too and see what we should talk about for that.
Well, and would people be willing to kind of spread out so we don't have such a heavy working session, working group population in the social engagement, and would people be willing to spread out into the other working groups or uh, be into, I don't know if that would be manageable. And I know when I was in caregiving back last year, we had outside people come, outside, community members be in the groups also. And so that would also be an option to enhance the groups. So, yes, Penny.
And I think another thing that we can think about is the age-friendly connection with the Commission on Aging, because as they came out of their March 13th conversation, the three areas of primary focus were housing, and that was robustly populated. And Phil, I think, is one of the leads on that, actually. And then caregiving. A lot of people from just different constituencies in the community were linked to caregiving in the age-friendly conversation. And interestingly enough, engagement was the one that was sort of short of people. So maybe that there could be a way that we could figure out how to collaborate the committees of the commission with the age-friendly. It would give us focus areas that had a variety of participants, but then all three of the areas would be identified and would be represented with strong cross-sectional interest. So that's another thing that we could do, because there's strong interest in having the age-friendly work a part of the communication that the Commission on Aging does, because there's such a strong platform for community communication out of the commission. So it's sort of looking at how do we collaborate with entities that are already doing the work to make it maybe more productive work.
And I would ask Phil and Dayton to comment on that idea because they were both at the age-friendly intervening. So what are your thoughts on that?
There was a Zoom call just last week on that, and sort of assigning positions and seeing where people would really step up and assist. But the collaboration between the two groups was definitely mentioned, and I see more of a need for that. And for clarification, when I had talked about the social engagement and such, I did reference the telemedicine, which falls a little bit more into the digital access side rather than the everybody being on the social engagement part. So I can see myself in more of the housing and affordable healthcare and healthcare in general. And my line of work is the accessibility getting to healthcare, which really points back towards the telemedicine part.
And you were just part of a very challenging situation that happened last week with, somebody needing to get to healthcare and needing, yeah. So, I mean, sometimes I think we forget, it's this group, it's like we all have the stories in the back of our heads, and then we come here and we kind of forget about them. And because we get so caught up and, are we doing anything? What are we doing? But those stories are there. And, how the commission can potentially be doing some work to help make things better for some of these really challenging situations. But then that's the one challenging situation. And then you have 90% of the other people who are looking for something else. But anyway, Bill, were you going to comment?
Almost challenging enough to become a case study for this group.
That's a great idea, actually. Dayton, do you have any comment?
I don't have really anything really revolutionary to add, Paula. I think what comes to mind is just reinforcing what Penny had said in terms of kind of identifying the platform in which we exchange information amongst our groups, because there's significant overlap, a lot of energy, all going toward a North Star for older adults. And given Aaron's amazing presentation last time we met, just kind of identifying the players or the groups and what their priorities are, I think that's the first big step in the right direction. And sort of tactically, what comes to mind is if we could have one organization even host a SharePoint that each of these groups could feed information into in a really succinct and intentional way, and as a place of reference for each of us to look and kind of keep an idea of each other's progress, each other's priorities, and what's really in front of us. I think it helps with us being more collaborative and being more unified in our approach. So it just kind of ideas to throw out there as we just become more aware of each of these working groups, whether it be at the state level, here at the regional level, or even further locally within each community. It just is paramount for efficiency and avoidance of duplication of efforts. All those things kind of come to mind, and maybe a solution is around identifying that communication platform where we could exchange information and really join arms on efforts. Thanks.
Thank you, Dayton. Yeah, I agree with we don't need two wheels out there talking about the same thing. I like the idea of blending both groups together because they're going for one mission. So
I do just want to point out that, the age friendly is Colorado Springs focused. It might be Colorado Springs Fountain Monument focused, but I don't know for sure. But we definitely have Park and Teller County, and we actually have a Park County, appointee on the commission.
Mhm.
So the other part, and I absolutely want to see the groups like combine for sure, because we're having the same conversations. But I also just want to remind everybody that we'll hopefully have a Teller County person or two on board at some point, and we could have more Park County people. And so just remember that piece as we definitely look at merging and sharing responsibilities with the age-friendly Colorado Springs group. But keep it in mind, Penny.
Yeah, Aaron, was the 2023-28 age-friendly plan, what was the title of it? Was it Colorado Springs or Pikes Peak? El Paso County. Okay. But I mean,
And
could be a new
Aaron may
entity
be
with a new name.
speaking, just a heads up, Aaron, I end up muting you while I love to hear your dog, but
Oh,
so you may need to unmute. Or maybe not, maybe the dog's in trouble, but
she did text me and said she had to step away for a minute.
but maybe one of the things is really talking about the use of language, because I agree, language is powerful,
Mhm.
either as a connector or as a separator. So I think that is a very important thing.
Okay, so next steps would be for the groups to decide on a lead and then decide on regular meeting days and times, I believe is what we talked about. And Aaron discussed with Melissa and I how she is part of other committees on the Colorado Center of Aging, and that they actually have a charter that people sign. that makes them very committed, and so she had a draft of a charter, and we had some discussion around that, and I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on. I mean, I think we are already committed to this group. Um, I don't know what your thoughts are about signing a charter to be in a work session group. Does anybody, Wanda, you've been quiet?
Kind of like what you just said, I'm not sure it's necessary. You've already committed to the cause. And then so being part of a subgroup, I would sign it, but I'm not sure that it would be necessary.
And I think where Erin was coming from is that we've had these work groups for quite some time and we've done very little with them. And so she was wanting to bring a more solid commitment to it, a more solid buy-in from the commissioners. But like you said, I mean, we're up to 11 commissioners. Is that right? Is that, did I count right? Yeah, right around there. We've never had a room and virtual people. We've never had so many before. And I think we need to just get organized within each group. And that is finding the lead and set day and time for monthly meetings and get going. I mean, to me, that's what an OCD person like me would thrive on, is having a meeting that is locked in my calendar that says I'm going to meet with all these people that are in the inclusion group at this time and day, every month or twice a month or virtually or whatever we decide on. But I think that's where Erin was coming from, because we've been in this kind of free space just floating for quite some time now. Any other thoughts?
I think we've had a lot of growth and a lot of change. And so I think it's holding people accountable. We're all adults. We're all committed to the cause. So I think it's setting that expectation of, we will meet, you will have a report for our next meeting, not any of this, oh, we didn't have time kind of thing. And if you're not providing, I don't know what kind of leadership or recourse looks like, but maybe a conversation from the chair of, hey, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. And then just making sure we're ensuring that proper communication as well, that, emails and calls and things are being returned, and just holding people accountable. I think the change and the increase of people will help with that process as well. But I'm the only one on my committee, so our work group.
Well, we're gonna help that. I like the idea of even just having a template of a report form back to the commission, just having a template of a form that people would fill out at their meetings, everyone would have kind of a uniform report coming back to the commission monthly. And just like you said, just getting more organized and on track, because I just feel like we're off track. Erin, I know you're back. What would
Sorry.
you like to know?
I missed that whole conversation when I
Okay.
stepped away. But did we talk about establishing charters for the working groups?
Yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I love a charter for asynchronous work, because it really establishes it, right? It writes down, we decide as a group what we're going to do and how we're going to hold each other accountable. And these are the things, and we agree to do these things. And this is when we're meeting. When new people come on, it helps with succession planning, as we would have turnover on members of the commission. And I like it. And I really like this idea, whoever said a reporting form, a standardized reporting form, because it helps, I think that'll help the executive committee And it gives a tangible return every month, a tangible return. These are the things that we as a group would like to know from this smaller group once a month. It's a great idea.
Other comments? Online, other comments? Because I have another thought, especially if we're gonna maybe try to blend with the age-friendly group. I think, to me, a charter is just a little strong. I think as if we're gonna blend with the age-friendly group, I think maybe some guidelines or some, I don't know what else you would call them, because we have two entities coming together. But gosh, a charter just seems like a heavy word to me. But that's me. I'm committed to this group. I Everyone is here except Kent, and he had an excuse to not be here. But this group has never been so strong, and so um, I just think, like you said, we're adults, and if we can't make this happen, then we need to regroup and
I
do
think
something
to
different.
Aaron's point, it helps just having some form of documentation as far as like a operating procedure or something written down. I agree, Paula, that charter might be like a heavy word. But if we are going to integrate other groups and community people, there has to be an SOP of some kind as far as what's reported, when the reports are due. Are we sending them to Melissa? Are we sending them to the chair? So just making sure there's clarification in that process of things will just help before and have that established before we merge with age friendly and reach out to the community. So we know how to communicate what the expectation is as well.
Anyone online?
Yes, Penny, Park County Senior Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
I would have no problem about moving into strengthening caregiver support into that group.
Thank you, Penny. And Wanda has also indicated that she would be interested, but Wanda wants to do two groups as well. So what I'd like to do here again is just kind of rename who's in what group, if this is okay. And I would really encourage and appreciate if possibly someone says they will be the chair for that group.
I don't want to lose track of what we were talking
You want
about.
to go back to charter?
Yeah, the
Okay.
charter, and just because I'm a thesaurus geek, I just pulled up my thesaurus. An engagement, an agreement, an engagement. I don't know. I'm just coming up with different words other than a charter. I don't know why I'm hung up on that. A contract. I don't know.
I always go back to SOP, operating procedures. So we just know an outline of what the expectation is, so then we can still all refer back to it. If we need something formally signed, I think that's where agreement and contract kind of come in versus your template and outline.
I think this is something that the group decides on. I don't think we just throw it out there and roll the dice. I think this is something that the group needs to discuss and decide. And I'd like everyone to have some input on it so we can table it till next month's meeting. If that's where you're at, if you'd like to sit with it and think about it more.
Are we tabling the decision of what to call it?
Yeah. Yes. If we
I-
don't have, go ahead.
Well, how about if we just decide right now? I mean, I think that we're talking about the same outcome no matter what, and we're just trying to pick the right name. And I like SOP for a name. And I think that we can call it that. And because I'm afraid if we table it until next month, then we table it until next month, and then we start in what is the month after next month, June? You know, then we start working in
No,
June.
I
But if
agree.
we
I
can,
agree. I just am not hearing from everyone, so I would like to hear what people think of SOP and if there's any other thoughts, but I'd like to hear something from everyone. Or a raised hand at least if you like SOP, because I'm content with SOP.
She was
Kathy?
disabled.
Kathy, I'm sorry,
Disabled. No, hi, SOP just sounds so military to me, but that's because I have a military background and I've written SOPs, but they were books. They're, multi-page documents. I think more of an outline or just even a guidance page would fit the bill.
Penny? Park County Penny, or I'm just going online first. Park County Penny, do you have a
I
preference?
like the outline of it, and being able to go down through it and have actual format to it. That actually helps tremendously. But of course, we want to have substance in every form line that we have.
All right, Dayton?
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. I am in agreement with Kathy of I think guideline is perfectly sufficient. I think what matters more is kind of the content versus what the document is called and the way that we outline and format that so that it's an effective tool in doing whatever it's intended to do in terms of communication among either our working groups or even outside audiences.
Great, thank you. And Steve? Steve, are you there? Okay, so I'm just looking at our agenda and just combining some things instead of SOP, sorry. Actually, Penny, what would you like to say?
I like the idea of guidelines. That gives a framework of fluidity to framework so that it can be tailored to the group and to the situation.
Okay.
And certainly we're in a fluid time now.
Okay, so I didn't mean to. The things I was looking at, just looking at our principles of engagement on our agenda, I was, principles of accountability, principles of collaboration, since we will be collaborating with, and like Dayton said, it's not really about the title, more so about what's the content that's in the document. So,
Madam Chair, what if it was the working session guidelines?
working session guidelines. That's fine. Is everyone okay with that? Yep, that's
like
what
that.
we'll,
Mhm.
okay,
That's good.
all right. There it is.
Or not to be like, oh, one more word change. Do we want to make it working session guidelines or work group guidelines? Because work groups is what
Probably
we're
work
working on,
group
right?
guidelines.
Okay. All right. I like it.
WGG.
Yeah, the wigs.
Yeah. There you go.
I like
I'm
it.
all about those acronyms,
Yeah, one more acronym, everybody.
Yep. All right.
So
Okay, Melissa,
I
now
have-
you can go through the groups.
Did Paula, did you have a chance to read over the charter that I sent to you?
I just glanced at it. I have it here in front of me. Would you like me to forward that on to the group?
Yeah. If you would
Okay.
forward that to the group, this is just the working bones of a charter or a working group guideline. And I think that in other groups that I work with, what I see to be effective is that we have, we all know that we are all working under the title XYZ. So in every working group, we know that we're working under work group guidelines. And then the chair of the working group will develop them in partnership with the people who are members of the working group. And it doesn't have to be, they don't have to be cookie cutters. They don't have to be exactly the same across all working groups, but we all know that we have an agreement within our little group of how we're getting stuff done. And there are some things that are the same, like Connie, to your point, or I don't know who it was that pulled up, who mentioned the regular reporting document, that could be in there. So saying, we will report out every month in this way. So I like it. And I find this kind of structure to be helpful in getting work done for other groups that I'm in. So
All right, Paula stepped away just for a second. So I have the working group guidelines. We'll send out Aaron's charter to these groups, and for the chair of the group to really be looking at kind of administering that kind of at the first meeting. So just to let people know, the groups that I have here. So the digital access, which is enhancing accessible and affordable healthcare, Dayton, Aaron, and Phil. Housing and transportation is Steve, possibly Phil. So then Phil would be on 2. Strengthening caregiver supports, we have Connie, Penny Everest up in Park County, Wanda, and then possibly Kent. We'll have to see. Promoting social engagement and inclusion. This group has gotten a little smaller now. We have Paula, Kathy, Penny Everest, Penny Whitney. Sorry, Penny Everest, Penny Whitney, and then Kent was there as well. So the person that I don't know about right now is Carolyn, but we can fit her in when it happens. So hearing that, Phil, are you okay with being on 2? Does that?
I would lean more towards the housing.
Okay. So that'll balance that out. So Aaron and Dayton can stay with digital access. You and Steve could focus on housing. Okay.
I could be on caregiving also. I could be on 2.
Okay. And so I think we have the bulk of the groups for sure. What I'm wondering right now is if it's okay for somebody to step up in each group and say that they would be the chair. Now, when you guys meet individually, you could regroup and say, I don't want to be the chair, and you can try to get somebody else to do it. But for now, for example, Dayton and Aaron, which one of you would like to be the chair for the digital access one?
Dayton really wants to be the chair. He told me.
At least to convene the first meeting and get this rolling, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So is this the people that so we're definitely just 2 people in the digital access one?
Yep.
Okay.
For now, Carolyn is still out there. I don't know where she wanted to land. But I'll find out.
Okay.
So then housing and transportation is Phil and Steve. Who wants to chair at least the first meeting?
Bill, would you like to do rock, paper, scissors?
I tell you what, Steve and I can have communication on that and get back to you. With just 2 of us, I'd say you could call it co-chairs at this point.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Is that good, Steve?
I absolutely agree.
Caregiving. Bonnie, Penny Everest, Wanda.
I was gonna nominate Kent.
So I'm willing to be on that committee, but I don't want to chair that.
I can continue because that's kind of the role I've been in, and then we can talk about it at our first meeting, see if anybody else wants to do it.
And Kent, I did speak up and say that, you might want to be in a different group besides caregiving. So would you like to take a few minutes and just kind of share where you really think you would want to spend your time, or if you want to do 2 committees, 2 work groups, or what? Or would you like to just say, no, thank you right now, give me a break?
So no, the caregiving one makes sense. So,
Okay.
but you had mentioned my name one other time right near the end, but I didn't hear what
With
that
the
was.
social engagement.
Oh, the social engagement.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you see?
Oh.
Okay. Well, for now, your caregiving, you could be on 2. Social engagement, inclusion. Again, Paula, Kathy. I've taken Wanda off that, but Wanda, you could attend too as well. So, yep, but you want to be on both. And then Penny, Whitney, and possibly Kent. But Kathy, there's been a suggestion that maybe you could chair this.
Sure.
You want to give it a go? Okay. All right.
I'll give
So
it a go.
I have our chairs and co-chairs. And then the task is going to be, and I'll send out emails with all the people in each of the committees. And then the chair needs to set up the next meeting. And ideally you have met before, our May meeting, and have reviewed the charter, now called the WIG. Yeah. The working group guidelines. And kind of come back and report back. Anything else, Chair Levy, that you would like for them to do?
I don't think so.
Okay. Success. Yay, group.
Next is item
Right.
number 9, discussion items, jurisdiction presentations.
So, we have 2 different groups within the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging, the RAC and the Commission on Aging, and both have appointed people. And so, both are responsible for reporting back to their jurisdictions. So we had one meeting with about half of the appointed people attending that meeting, and we had a pretty deep dive discussion on kind of how things should look. The goal, and I'm going to hand out to the folks in the room here kind of a little bit of a kind of summary of what kind of happened at the meeting. So, my hope is that when people report back to the jurisdictions from the RAC and the Commission on Aging, that we look like people know what each other is doing and that we're kind of sharing. So it was really important to have both people from the RAC and the Commission on Aging present in that room. And as Erin mentioned at the beginning, she's already got a meeting, a presentation on the books to present to the City of Colorado Springs. At this point in time, we do not have a RAC appointee from the City of Colorado Springs. So that's good. So it's really just Erin going, which is wonderful. We have appointed people to the Commission on Aging from El Paso County. We do not have any El Paso County RAC appointees. So that's good. So it's just, the Commission on Aging. Park County, we do have we have a person on the RAC and we have a person on the Commission on Aging. And so ideally, Penny and Sheila will go together and present to those Park County commissioners versus, Penny presenting and then the next month Sheila presenting and, what's going on with aging, but there's at least some kind of common message being shared. So, but we also don't have to worry about that right now with City of Colorado Springs or El Paso County. In the RAC, you see that we have actual city council people who are sitting on the RAC, who are then going back and reporting back to their city council. And so, what do they say to them? What do they share? Laura Chronic from the City of Monument talked about how she actually says a lot to her city council members about what's going on. Gordon Rick, he's pretty new to the RAC, so he's not always super outspoken right now at the City of Fountain. But the idea is to kind of have, some, again, format, some common guidelines of what gets shared out so that we're kind of saying the same thing when people are talking to these commissioners. Everyone agreed that we wanted to do it on a quarterly basis. And so that's a lot. And that's going to be a real commitment from people, because in order to get on these, agendas with these folks, you got to be working that the month prior. And so most likely that's going to fall on me to be trying to schedule those conversations with the county commissioners, the city council people, but it's also possible that, the folks who have been appointed might be able to just do that. So we still have to figure that process out. Aaron's already set that up with the city of Colorado Springs, so that's great. But, are Penny and Sheila, comfortable reaching out to their Park County commissioners and setting that up, or do they want help with that? So we'll just kind of see. Steve, because he was already planning on going to the El Paso County Commissioners as well, he did send us a format and with content in it that he was presenting as a draft. And so from that, I took kind of his format where, there's an overview that's shared. And again, Aaron put together that PowerPoint with the Commission on Aging, the State Commission on Aging, the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging, the Colorado Center on Aging, like all of that. But we also have then the RAC that kind of falls into that, at least for Park County. And how much do we want to go into detail on that? But we do need to give some type of an overview and background of what is the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging, what is the RAC. And again, once that's done, does that have to keep happening every month, every quarter? Possibly not, but you get new county commissioners once a year. So then you got to be ready to give kind of an overview at that time when the new city council people, new county commissioners, et cetera, et cetera. Steve had put down some kind of key highlights where he literally had done some research and pulled numbers and services that have been provided to people across the 3-county area. And so he had kind of plugged that in there. Does El Paso County want to know, the services that are being done in Teller County? Maybe not. So then again, we have to kind of streamline this a little bit. Aaron will be just talking about the city of Colorado Springs. Penny and Sheila are talking about Park County. Wanda, Steve and Carolyn are talking about El Paso County. So kind of having some key highlights, strategic initiatives that have been happening. And this can really ultimately tie to the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging when we have some things. Last year, we did have specific things that got accomplished. And so, tying into those pieces and having that as a part of that piece. Quarterly priorities. So then just being able to highlight, hey, for the upcoming quarter, this is what the Commission on Aging is going to be working on. Then the last part is literally asking for some type of engagement from that jurisdiction. Boy, what does that look like? I thought that was a great piece when Steve had put that in there too. So that's kind of the basic format. And so, Aaron's going to present, in May. I don't know that we'll have time to convene and kind of try to bring things together before that happens. But I just really want to put this out there that I think it's super important for the Commission on Aging, for the RAC, for all of these appointed people, for us to have some type of common format and common, kind of message that's being shared so that people know what's being talked about and what's being presented. And so just, planting that seed for now. Again, Erin's going to go forward because I am sure that there's just not going to be an opportunity for her and I to meet before that happens with the city of Colorado Springs. But for the folks that are going to be presenting to El Paso County, they're looking at doing that also if you can scroll to the bottom again, Jared, they're doing it in May. So we've got our work cut out for us here. And the idea would be there would be presentations in July, October, and January. Again, I'm forgetting about Park County with Penny and Sheila. You know, are they ready to present to the El Paso, to the Park County commissioners in May? If not, that's fine. I mean, it can happen in July, something to look forward to. We've at least got it kind of crafted out on the calendar. So all of that said, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to put it over to Steve for a few minutes. Because again, Steve really did put together some really good, a really good document. If Steve has any other comments, and then, yeah, go from there.
Melissa, you're being too kind. I never got a star on my homework. So, no, in fact, as we were talking about though, Melissa, is just, I was, sitting here, thinking about as an appointee for El Paso County, is providing quarterly updates of everything that, this group does here in the community. The City of Fountain, Monument, El Paso County, City of Colorado Springs. But I absolutely agree with you is that the message has to be consistent, because all of these elected officials, they meet and they talk. And, if they're saying, hey, we had a presentation by Aaron in the city, and this was what was passed. And if the commissioners hear something different, it just goes to the lack of credibility. And so to me, what's important is the message has to be consistent. And that's why I just came up with a rough draft, and hopefully that helps people out.
Yeah, Steve, is your rough draft, is it like a one pager, or is it it's a one pager?
It is, Aaron. In fact, I sent it over to Melissa, and I don't know, I know, Melissa, did you share it just a couple weeks ago with everybody?
Well, what I did was I pulled, and back at the top of this piece here, these are the core 4 things that were on that. So there was an overview, key highlights and strategic initiatives. I think quarterly priorities was there too. And then the ask for jurisdiction engagement. So those 4 things. So the key is how complicated and how complex do we get in those different places? The idea is to try to keep it as simple as possible, but yet give these jurisdictions some good information. We're only going to have 10 minutes, or maybe even less. And so, it has to be concise, it has to be clear. But I thought, so these are the core 4 things that he had on there. And I can forward that over to Erin. So that she can look at it.
I'm going to send an email because I made a similar document, Steve. So I'm wondering if, let's compare our documents, because I was thinking that what I had said could be the framework for my presentation in May to the City Council, but I would love to see how you've sort of arranged yours. And the City Council wants 20 minutes for their presentation, so that's plenty of time to go over in good detail about what we're doing. And Steve, you're an appointee from El Paso County, right?
I am.
Okay. All right. Yes. So let's connect one-on-one. And compare our documents, make one document together, and then go forward. How does that sound?
No, absolutely. And so, Aaron, I think, yourself and Carolyn and Wanda and myself, I think in number 4, ask for jurisdictional engagement. I think that's particularly important for us because you got brand new city council members. I got brand new county commissioners that have probably no idea what we're doing here. So it's a great opportunity to get these new folks that just got sworn in on Tuesday to get them engaged.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yep.
All right. And so Steve and Aaron, you guys will meet and compare notes and come up with kind of a one-pager that kind of gets at this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So Aaron, I look forward to your email, and I'll share my stuff, and between the 2 of us, we'll come up with a pretty good presentation that we could share with these folks.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Thanks, ma'am.
Yeah, this is awesome.
All right, next is the Older Americans Month actions and collaborations. I did read the proclamation up at the Aspen Wine Center. They were listening.
I'll hand out proclamations to the group here. Oh, thanks.
Can you tell us about the actions and collaborations, Melissa?
Well, I think the good news is that a lot of this has been kind of chatted already
Okay.
in the sense that there is the work that Encore, changing the narrative is who kind of put that out. So Janine Vandenberg and Karen Brown, who is also on the Colorado Commission on Aging, or the Colorado Commission on Aging. And so I will forward the email that came to me on February 11th. And people can kind of look at that. I guess I was just kind of curious, one of the things that I did at the couple of outreach events that I just had was I had older adults fill out a piece of paper that said, how are they flipping the script on aging? And so, I mean, I had a guy pull up his cell phone and show me a picture of him at 74 roller skating in amazingly crazy ways. Now, so how's he flipping the script? He's staying, active, and he's, really, really engaged in a roller skating club here in Colorado Springs. And I know that there's a focus too on aging, or not on aging, on the workforce. And so, if people just are coming across things that they see in the community, over the next, month in May, maybe just, kind of be sharing that with each other, and let's just kind of keep our eyes open for it. I do not have anything formal that is going on from the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging, other than every time I'm going out, I'm just going to be asking older adults to share how they would flip the script on aging. I'm not focusing it on, workforce. I'm not focusing it on caregiving. I'm just asking in general how they would flip the script.
Then are you writing it down?
I am. Yep. And so I might create some type of little story montage. I did that a couple of years ago with World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So that's my only thought. So just for other people.
And if there's a photo op, would we need to
Yes.
have a photo release signed?
Yes, I would do that
Just,
if I do it. Like I didn't take the
I
guys.
mean, we
Yep.
just make up a little photo
Yep.
release saying,
Yep.
okay.
And I actually have one from
Okay, yeah.
previous times. I don't know if I'll go that far. I might, we'll see.
Okay.
I'm definitely just taking down the notes,
Okay.
and I'm trying to get them to write it in their own handwriting instead of me writing it, but that doesn't always work. So sometimes I just have to write it.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I'm happy to do that too. So just ideas that people have, just really be thinking about it. And now we have a little bit of a format here that I can send to you. This is definitely focused on workforce engagement, but this is the Colorado Commission on Aging kind of focus, really trying to drive it. And again, a huge push and reminder that we need to show up at the city of Colorado Springs for those of us who live here on May 12th
May
at
12th.
9
Woo!
o'clock in the morning with Aaron.
Yeah, bring your
And
age flag. Age
Yep.
flags, everybody.
And if we get something scheduled with El Paso County in May, then, try to show up there too. Because it is Older Americans Month. So this is really great. And then, of course, we're going to have our very own people presenting to the PPACG board the second Wednesday in May. It's going to be busy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Are there any member entity announcements to be had? None?
Madam Chair, you do have Dayton with his hand raised.
Oh, Dayton, please.
Thanks. I was just going to mention, given everything, a lot to kind of keep up with. And what stays effective for me is calendar invites to whatever extent that those could be shared or sent out, that would be really, really helpful. Just personally, if that's not an option, that's fine too. Because I know we kind of walked that line around that law that we've gone over a few times. The other thing I wanted to mention was just overall Senior Resource Council's involvement with this group. I know that they have the accolades event coming up, and just overall curious of how we might engage them with this group just to get a fresh perspective. I've been in contact with Jamie, who's on their board, and I thought it might be a valuable thing, and whenever we think timing is appropriate, is to invite her to do a quick presentation of what some of their sort of strategic priorities are coming forward as they're kind of, recatalyzing, revamping some of the things that they're doing on their end. I think they bring a really interesting perspective, having so many private sector as well as long-term care providers, a part of that group, which I know many of you probably know much better than me. But I just would really love for them to give insight and educate this group if possible in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Dayton. Does anybody else have anything to share as far as announcements?
I was just gonna say to Dayton's point, there's a lot of other senior networking groups in our community too. And so maybe not just the SRC, but other groups that focus on senior care we can invite to present to.
There's several, actually. Yeah, that would be great.
Always a new one.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great idea, Connie. All right.
And I had one more thing. I don't know if anybody else here interacts with the Healthy Community Collaborative from Pikes Peak Public Health. Is anybody a part of that group?
I just presented for them, Erin.
Oh, you did? Awesome. They recently released a senior, I'm looking for it, like a senior resource packet. Were you part of the conversation about developing the senior resource packet, Dayton?
Yeah, and I know they featured the yellow book in the presentation, and they had some follow-up with some of the resources. And the main presenters were Janaea, Adrian from Silver Key, a public health care coordinator, and myself. So yeah.
So that group, I mean, I'm very impressed that they are talking about it and thinking about it and working on it. And I think I would love to call them in so that they know more about the work that we do. Oh, they're calling it their Healthy Community Collaborative Senior Resource Flyer. And anytime I see another group, sort of circling the wagons and making sure that the work that they're doing is serving seniors, I love to call them in so that they know that we are a resource, because I think that the AAA is the best resource in any community. So I'm glad that you're there, and I'm glad that you're connected with them, Dayton, and maybe having someone from their group present to us at some time would be a good idea.
Great. Thanks, Erin.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have anything? Our next meet. Go ahead.
This is Jared in the back.
Okay.
Dayton alluded to it a little bit, but I just kind of want to remind, we've had a lot of discussion about outreach events. We've had a lot of discussion about presentations. Anytime there's going to be 3 or more commissioners in any setting, that does kick us into an open meeting requirement. So just awareness if that happens. Just let Melissa or myself know. We're supposed to post those at least 24 hours in advance. My favorite one, I always like to use an example, ribbon cuttings. So when the city councilors all get invited to ribbon cutting, those are considered open meetings. And then the same time, Steve and Aaron were talking, as long as it's just 2 people on that email chain, go crazy. As soon as there's a third, that's when it triggers open meetings. So just kind of keep that in mind as we start collaborating a lot more. There's a lot of people out there who are looking to think people like on stuff like
all the more reason for our work group gatherings to have a set day and time, and then we won't have to keep contacting Jared. He can just post those all you want, all day long, every month. It'll be the same date and time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. We aim to please, Jared.
Hmm.
All right, our next meeting is May 21st at 3 p.m. Our executive meetings are open to everyone. They are the first Wednesday of each month, virtual at 9 a.m. And the policy committee meetings to be announced and the upcoming PPACG meeting schedule was attached to our packet. Items for next meeting.
I have a few things written down.
Go right ahead.
To make sure that we take a note to look at the wigs. And I know that Penny has been thinking about wanting to have her JAWS students present, so I have to bring that up to the executive committee meeting. And then, of course, I just wrote down all of these groups that we just talked about, inviting them to come and attend and listen in and even present. So,
And with that, I was wondering if there is a link out there where people obviously can join in virtually.
yep.
Wondering if like the Woodland Park Senior Center would have a group that would watch us virtually, watch the meeting virtually, if other senior centers would post our meeting and watch our meeting or have a presentation to our group virtually. So that's something that we can talk to. When I talk to Rose up at the Woodland Park Senior Center, see if that is something that they might be interested in kicking off or at least trying.
And
to
we can
see.
talk about that when we're at Fountain Valley Senior Center on Friday.
Awesome. Okay. All right. I think we can call this meeting 4 minutes past 5 adjourned. Thank you, everyone.